So an example of calculating ratios is as we can see in this example here. This example is telling us that if on a map 2 centimeters represent 5 kilometers on the actual ground, what is the ratio of our map distance to the actual ground distance? If on the map 2 centimeters represent 5 kilometers on the actual ground, what is the ratio of the map distance to the actual ground distance? Now, we have to note that when we are calculating ratios, the units must be the same. The units must be the same. Okay, the quantities, we say the quantities must be similar, but again the units of those quantities must also be the same. Now here we are talking about centimeters and kilometers. Those units are not the same because we have centimeters, we have kilometers. We cannot compare that in our ratio unless we put the units to be the same. So in this case, the map distance is already in centimeters. The map distance is 2 centimeters. But the actual ground distance is in kilometers, so we need to change that one to make it in centimeters. So the actual ground distance will be the same. We change that 5 kilometers to meters, so it will be the same as 5 multiplied by 100,000. 1 kilometer is the same as 100,000 centimeters. 1 kilometer is equal to 100,000 centimeters. So we multiply this by 100,000 to change it to centimeters, and that will give us 500,000 centimeters. So then, because we have now similar units, we can now come and compare that. So we can say the map distance to the actual ground distance is equal to map distance to actual ground distance is equal to the map distance is 2 centimeters and the ground distance is 500,000 centimeters. And because the units are the same, we don't need to put those units there in our ratio. We simply put the figures and the units, we can ignore them because they are just the same. They simply cancel. So if we simplify this, becomes 1 is to 250,000. So the map distance to the actual ground distance becomes 1 is to 250,000, and that is a ratio that describes the relationship between the map distance and the actual ground distance. Another example I can give is an example that we can calculate something here, okay, in terms of the ratios. Abdul has 420,000 shillings in his bank account. Rashid has 280,000 shillings in his bank account too. What is the ratio of Abdul's money to Rashid's money? The ratio. We need the ratio, and we are told to start with Abdul's money to Rashid's money. Abdul's money, so Abdul to Rashid. simply the ratio, Abdul to Rashid. And Abdul's money in the bank is 420,000, so we'll put that one in the beginning because we have started with Abdul. So we are putting what he has in the bank, 420,000 is to Rashid. Money in the bank is 280,000, and we put next to that. So that has been given in ratios, but that ratio is not simplified. So we need to simplify it, divide by 10,000, divide by 10,000. That will give us 42 is to 28. But still, that one is not simplified. We can divide by 14 by 14. So by 14 we get 3. By 14 we get 2. So that ratio is simplified. We can put that ratio in terms of a fraction. So in fraction form, that becomes the first digit is the one that becomes the numerator. It will be 3, then over the second digit. That is how we put it in fraction. We cannot say Abdul to Rashid in terms of a fraction and we start with the 2 is to 3. No, it will be 3 divided by 2. And look at these other examples. Therefore, how do we... But before we look at the other examples, I want to note something here. That when you have a ratio, the total quantity represents or is directly proportional to the total ratios. And it is given here. The total quantity for Abdul and Rashid is 420,000 plus 280,000. That is the total amount of money they have, both of them in the bank. And this will be directly proportional to their ratios. The ratios are 3 and 2. So it will be directly, the total quantity will be directly proportional to the sum of the ratios, which is 5. So if we want to calculate anything pertaining to the ratios of their amount of money, or anything pertaining to the amount of their money in the bank, we can use the total and the total amount or the total quantity and the total ratio to calculate anything that we want. And we want to look at this example. This example says the ratio of cows to goats in a certain farm. The ratio of cows to goats in a certain farm is 3 is to 7. So in other words, you can say cows to goats is in the ratio 3 is to 7. Because that is what we are told there. If there are 250 animals in the farm, we can see the total number of the animals in the farm is 250. Calculate the number of cows in the farm. So the total number, that is the goats plus the cows, will give the total number of animals is the same as equal to 250. So that is the total number of the animals. That is cows plus the goats in that farm will be 250. But we are told that the ratio of cows and goats is 3 is to 7. So in other words, 250 is the total quantity, and that will be directly proportional to the total ratios that we have, the sum of the ratios. So 250 is directly proportional to the sum of the ratios. The sum of the ratios is 10. So you see, so it will be very easy for us to now calculate part of that, part of the ratios that we have. If we want to calculate the number of cows, and number of cows is represented by 3. Number of cows is represented by 3 in our ratio. So how much will be the number of cows? That is how we go about it. And therefore we can cross multiply this. Cross multiply it. So it means it is 3 multiplied by 250 and we divide by 10. And this will be the number of cows. The number of cows will be therefore be given by 3 times 250 divided by 10. How much do we get? We get 75 cows in the farm. Cows in the farm. And if you want to calculate the number of goats in the farm, we also can take the ratio representing the number of the goats, and then we cross multiply with the total number of quantity and the total number of ratios, and we will get the number of goats that are in the farm. So from this, I am sure that we have fulfilled our objectives, that we need to be able to define rate and ratio, and at the same time be able to calculate what is there in rates and ratios. From these examples that I've given you, I'm sure we are able to calculate anything that is pertaining to rates and ratios. I will give you the assignments on this video. There are some assignments at the end which I'll present to you, and I'm sure you'll be able to do them as following the examples that I've given you. Thank you very much, and we meet next time. Take care.